Cantor. Leader Cantor, good to have you on the program. Thanks so much for joining us.
Maria, good to be with you.
So what is the reaction on Capitol Hill today to what Moody said?
Well, Maria, we continue to want to go and provide solutions and resolve the differences here in Washington. And all there's been over the last couple of years is a one-way street. We're looking for some action by the President and the White House to come to the table with us on all the issues that we're confronting, whether it is the fiscal issue of the deficit, whether it is the sequestration issue, or whether it's the tax issue. We continue to put forward solutions. We have passed bill after bill. The Senate's been unwilling to take them up, and frankly, the President's been unwilling to meet us to sit down and try and iron out the differences.
So what are you willing to give on, Congressman? I mean, when you look at what the two sides are basically sticking to their guns, I mean, can it really be realistic to say taxes can never go up, that taxes should stay where they are forever? I mean, in any environment. Give us your sense in terms of what you're willing to give on.
Well, first of all, raising taxes is not the answer. We all know that. This problem is too large to think we can tax our way out of it. What we really need to be focused on is how big do we want the government to be, and then begin to assess our priorities so we can manage down the deficit. That's clearly how it is. And once we get a plan in place where, in fact, we've got a solution to the overspending, we can begin to tell people their tax revenues will go to be paying off the deficit. But the problem is, Maria, there's been an unwillingness to face up to the hard facts. There are obligations that have been assumed by the taxpayers, frankly, and there's not enough money to satisfy those obligations. And that's what we have to sit down, iron out the differences, and go forward.
I know you guys have just gotten back, but what has been the discussion in terms of getting together on the fiscal cliff? Has the work begun after the vacation?
Well, I mean, clearly this week we'll have on the floor the continuing resolution, which is the funding bill for the federal government that will take us well into March, beyond the election. We continue to reach out to the White House and say, look, please come and join us, Mr. President, on this issue of the defense cuts. We've got a severe defense cut facing the Pentagon that will hollow out our military, affect the ability for us to defend this country. And we in the House have proposed a solution to that and said there are some other ways that we can reduce spending and save costs. But please, at least tell us where you stand on this. We've not gotten an answer on that either.
All right, so you haven't gotten an answer on that yet. Let me ask you about the timing on this, because I know that the defense companies are going to have to alert employees if, in fact, there will be job cuts, and there's a deadline in doing so. I think it's October 1st. What is the timing? When will these companies start having to explain to employees, look, you're going to be cut because our spending programs are going to be cut?
Right, there's a requirement at law that federal contractors have to alert their employees if there are going to be layoffs. And there has just been inaction on the part of the President and the White House on this issue of sequestration. Secretary Panetta, as late as this morning, was saying that the Pentagon hasn't taken any action, the President hasn't taken any action, so these defense contractors are going to have no choice but to notify their employees that there are going to be massive layoffs. And obviously, in a state like mine, Maria, I mean, I'm from Virginia, very dependent upon defense dollars, play a big role in the defense of our country. This is going to mean real jobs in a state that will feel the impact of these kind of cuts that the President's forward.
Ironically, if we did go off the fiscal cliff and no deal gets done here, it might actually make Moody's happy. They're threatening that another downgrade could come, but it would obviously mean less spending and higher taxes. Is that what you're expecting?
Well, the problem is, listen, we don't think that higher taxes is the answer. We feel that the confidence in the economy rests on the fact that government's got to start getting it right. And for too long, we've been ignoring the problems.
It looks like that's where we're going, right?
I don't think there's any question. If Mitt Romney wins this election, which I believe he will, we'll make sure, and he will make sure, that taxes don't go up and that we go about reforming our tax code the way that most of us on either side of the aisle want to see happen. If the President gets his way and wins the election, taxes are going to go up. It's very clear to me.
It's Manpower today saying that, of course, they track jobs and hiring. They're saying flat out the unresolved fiscal cliff is, in fact, stopping companies from hiring. They are just not going to do it with these uncertainties. So given the state of the economy, this terrible jobs number just last Friday, how is it that you and the Democrats aren't getting this done right now? I mean, is there an urgency here or no?
There's absolutely an urgency, and we have said from the beginning, we want to work in good faith. We have worked in good faith. We haven't seen any reciprocal action on the part of the Senate or the White House. That's the problem. And honestly, you know, if you think about it, Maria, if the fiscal cliff were to occur, what does it mean to investors and business people when they have to pay higher taxes? It means that the risk premium has just gone up. And so if you want less of something, you raise the price of the risk and you'll get less of it. Now's not the time to have less investment resulting in less confidence. And that's why we're looking for a more sensible, reasoned approach where we can fix the problem with the deficit. But the president needs to come sit down with us. For 2 years now, he's not been willing to actually sit and appreciate the arithmetic and say, you know what, you can't just tax your way out of this. We got to work together to fix the problem.
Let me move on to this Bob Woodward book. Of course, the new Woodward book out today details the failed debt talks between the president and Speaker John Boehner. It details that there was tension between you and Mr. Boehner, that you did not agree with the direction he was going with the president, which was a deal that included tax increases. Does the book paint an accurate picture?
You know, John Boehner and I saw eye to eye on the fact that we don't think increasing taxes, especially in an economy like this, helps job creation, that somehow it helps our economy and the confidence level. We never differed on that point at all, and it was the president who continued to insist that the only way to go forward was to raise taxes. Again, I think that, you know, the budgeteers will tell you you can't tax your way out of the problem, as I said earlier, and the real focus should be on curing the spending problem in Washington. And that means we've got to deal with the entitlement situation. We have to deal with health care entitlements in order to manage down the debt. And that is the first and foremost we've got to do. Otherwise, you're throwing money into a hole asking people to pay more taxes.
So is that the biggest area to cut in your view right now, entitlements? Are there other sort of low-hanging fruit that you can talk to us about that actually would move the needle?
Sure, there are issues abounding here in Washington when you have the $3 trillion worth of spending that that the federal government is about. And in fact, I participated in discussions with Vice President Biden for 7 weeks, and in fact, we were able to produce with a group of us a list of at least $2 trillion in cuts that would have gone at least some of the way towards what we need to be doing. There are all kinds of areas that we can cut. But let's not mistake this. The Congressional Budget Office, OMB, all of them will say, if we don't get a handle on our entitlements, you're not going to resolve the deficit situation. So that's why we really ought to be focused on this, and the president has just been, you know, AWOL on this, has been unable to come forward with a solution. And again, we all realize the severity and urgency of this situation. I just wish the White House would.
So what are you going to do? I mean, if you keep saying, look, the president won't come to the table, I mean, is this going to be, if the president wins re-election, is this going to be an ongoing theme for the next 4 years? You guys just cannot come together? I mean, how are we going to get things done?
I think to Moody's concern and to your point, the election is going to be dispositive on the issue of taxes. There is not any other issue which is more clear in terms of the difference between the candidates. Mitt Romney is not for taxes going up. He's for tax reform, simplifying the code, bringing down rates. The president has insisted that the only way he'll go forward is to raise taxes. And unfortunately, the impact of raising taxes falls on small business people, our job creators. And if we want to see jobs and investment return, we don't want to see taxes go up on those individuals, because that's who we need as an economic engine. So I do think going forward, the election will really answer this question if we can't get it resolved before.
Not to mention the number that the president keeps talking about is anybody making more than $200,000, which of course is a number that includes a much wider wrath than what you would think of in terms of the millionaires and billionaires that the president talks about a lot. Let me ask you this, Leader Cantor. The latest ABC poll, Washington Post poll, shows that the president has an edge over Mitt Romney on the economy right now. Post the convention. Can Romney win if he can't edge the president in this department, something that Romney and Ryan have been putting front and center?
Mitt Romney can win this election and will win this election. I think a lot of voters, especially those who are going to win this election, the 5 or 6% in the middle in about 8 states who are just now starting to tune in post-Labor Day, realize this is a terrible economy. You know, the optimism is just not there. Most of these voters are at home. They're worried about how they're going to put their kids through school, worried about how they're going to deal with their health care costs for their elderly parents, worried about just making